What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the YouTube channel. I really appreciate you tuning in today. We are back in my 2006 Nissan 350z rev up today, and I actually wanted to go over something that I haven't talked about at all on my channel. I've had a few people ask me what my thoughts and opinions are on the brand new Nissan Z Proto or the 400z or whatever it's going to be called. I'm not quite sure yet. So I wanted to jump on here and do a little video of, my thoughts and impressions of the interior, the exterior, what I think the engine's going to be, what I think the starting price is going to be, how I think the power is going to work out, and what I think about, the transmission and stuff like that being manual. I think that's awesome. So without further ado, let's get into it. I wanted to start this video with talking about the styling because that's the first thing you see when you see the car. I would like to begin by clearing the air and saying that I think it looks amazing. I think you look at a lot of cars nowadays and the future versions of cars, a lot of companies I feel like try really hard. Styling is a huge deal nowadays, and a lot of companies have like these sharp lines and angles and stuff. And like, for instance, look at the Nissan Maxima, same exact company. I mean, the front grille is like, you have like, slices and cuts and different lines and angles and stuff like that. It kind of looks like the Predator, there's that many angles and stuff. So I think it's pretty awesome that Nissan like took a step back and went at this design with a little more simplicity, and they didn't go as over the top with some crazy flying buttresses and stuff that a lot of cars have nowadays, and different angles and aero that's already built onto the car. I think Nissan really understands that when you buy a Nissan sports car, you don't want to buy it done. You want to buy a car that you can still modify. You can still put a wing on it, a front lip, you can still do stuff to it. Now obviously they're probably going to have a Nismo edition, but I still think it's just awesome that they gave us this perfect canvas to basically modify once they come out and they release it and people start getting them. So it's going to be awesome to see what people do with them. But kind of talking about the fact that Nissan's building a sports car again. Now everyone already knows about the Nissan GTR, and I'm really interested to see how the update of the GTR is going to be now that they're releasing this, because partly why Toyota partnered with BMW to produce the new Supra is mostly because they couldn't afford to build the car on their own. So it's really awesome in my opinion to see Nissan taking on a build like this all on their own, like it's all in-house, which I think is really cool. I think a huge thing that Toyota missed out on was like the heritage and the fact that the original Supra was all built by Supra. Of course they brought the Supra back, but it wasn't really what people wanted. Like, people wanted the Toyota Supra from the 90s. So I'm assuming because Nissan is building this all on their own, that it's going to have a whole bunch of heritage and a whole bunch of styling cues and a whole bunch of, nostalgic features from all the other previous Z cars and generations. What I am curious about is, because they're not partnering with anyone to build this car, are they going to be pushing back the update for the Nissan GTR, or are they still going to be able to go, and do that? I don't know if you guys heard recently, but Nissan's kind of going with this huge multi-billion-dollar thing with their ex-CEO, which is kind of interesting. So the fact that they're going to do this with all of that going on behind the scenes still is super awesome, and I'm so happy that they're going to continue the Z name, because it's such a great, it's such a great car. It's such a great lineage. So we've talked about exterior. Let's talk about interior for a little bit. So I've heard it's going to have a 12.3-inch digital instrument cluster. It's all going to be in color now, so not this amber color that everyone knows. Definitely going into 2020, seeing the 370Z with the amber color is definitely, it's starting to look aged. So I'm glad they're going full color with the LCD instrument cluster. They're keeping the iconic 3 gauges on the dashboard. I have to admit, if they didn't keep those 3 gauges, I'd have to say, I don't know if it would actually be a Nissan Z at that point, It's like, that is such an iconic thing on the interior of a Z car. So I'm glad they're keeping that. So I saw a few pictures of the interior, and it looks like they're going to be keeping the seats out of the 370 and maybe changing them just a little bit. I didn't notice that they were very different. Same with the door handles. I think the door handles are pretty much the same inside. I think this all goes back to Nissan not partnering with anybody. They're going to try and save money in every location they can so they can even bring us this car. So, and realistically, the 370Z's interior wasn't too bad to begin with. So I'm not too upset about that. I'm assuming it's going to have a Nismo edition, which is going to come with Recaro seats like all the other Nismos do. Obviously, we cannot talk about this new Z car without talking about the manual transmission. I think this is going to be a game changer for Nissan. I think Toyota should have done this with the new Supra, but they didn't. So this is opening up an entire lane of buyers for Nissan that aren't going to buy the Supra just because of the fact that it comes with a manual transmission. I love paddle shift. I've driven a few paddle shift cars in my life, but there's something about a manual transmission that is just, it's not that it feels faster, or it's not that it's more satisfying, because there's something about shifting a really fast dual clutch transmission, but it definitely makes you feel like the car has become part of your body, like you are an extension of the vehicle. When you're driving, that's what you want to feel like. That is what you want, that connection with the vehicle when you're driving. So manual transmission all the way, in my opinion. And I've actually watched a lot of videos about people that own Supras that are thinking about selling their Supra for the new Z. I can understand why. I mean, the manual is going to be a huge deal, but I've also heard, we're going to talk about performance here in a second, but I've also heard that it might have more horsepower than the Supra stock, so that'll also be a huge reason as well. So that's pretty much it for the interior. Let's talk about performance. Everyone is saying that it's going to have a twin turbo V6 directly out of the Q50 Infiniti, specifically the Red Sport. That car makes 400 horsepower. So if they do end up putting that motor inside the Z, it'll actually be 20 horsepower more than the Supra comes stock. So that's pretty interesting. Just something to think about, something to keep in mind. mind. There is also another Infiniti that has a twin turbo V6 that only makes 300 horsepower. I would assume they're not going to put this engine in there. It just wouldn't make sense based on all the other, competing cars, power ranges and stuff. So I'm assuming it's going to be the Red Sport twin turbo V6, but we won't know until we see it. So that's basically all we know about performance. Last two things I wanted to talk about are kind of like the cons in my opinion, and then also its price that I feel like it's going to be starting with right when it's for sale. So I don't have very many cons at all, but I am interested to see what happens with the GTR. Are they going to push it back a few more years to let this thing kind of set and see how it does? Or are they just going to go ahead and, you know, redesign the GTR? I do know like the R36 is supposed to be coming out within the next few years, or at least it's supposed to. So we'll definitely see. I haven't heard anything about it, so this might be interesting. I heard that they might be taking the 370Z chassis and just putting it into this car. Them tweaking the 370Z chassis to fit this car, it just financially makes a whole lot of sense. And I wouldn't be too upset with that. I don't think a whole, you know, newly designed chassis needed to exist for this. I'm more so just happy that it's going to be all designed under one roof and it's just 100% Nissan built vehicle. So that's basically it for cons. I actually couldn't find very many of them. I'll have to see this car in person to really understand what it's going to be like, which I'm really excited about. So last thing I wanted to talk about here is basically pricing and where I think it's going to sit. And then obviously higher tier versions, where are they going to be priced wise. So it says right here, the brand new Supra is $50,000 with an 8-speed automatic transmission. Everyone knows that manual cars are cheaper than automatic cars. So I would assume, I would like to see this car priced at around $38,000 for like the base model. I do not think we're gonna see this car in the 20,000s. I think with a twin turbo V6 and, you know, to compete with the competitors and other cars that are worth 20,000 right now, I just feel like this car is gonna be too high of performance. So I would assume that the base model is gonna be anywhere between 36 and 38. And I would assume like the highest tier, like the Nismo edition, probably gonna be around 50,000 to compete with the new Supra. So it's gonna be really interesting to see. If it is under 40,000, I mean, a lot of people are gonna be gravitating towards that over the Supra, especially now that they're gonna have options to choose from in this segment. So, and then the last thing, I really don't think we're going to be starting to see these cars get delivered to the first owners until like the late 2021. From what I've heard, the car is basically done. It's in its final production form. So we're probably just waiting on a few more like legal things, making sure it can even come to the States and stuff like that. But overall, I'm super excited that they're even producing this car. I'm happy to see that the Z's longevity, or like the Z lifeline, is going to continue on for the next generation. It makes me super excited, and I highly recommend getting your hands on one of these 50Zs right now, because as the 400Z comes out, I feel like a whole bunch of people are going to want them, but they're going to be priced really high, and so you're going to be looking at a cheaper version. And I'm pretty sure that this car, obviously it's going to have 100 less horsepower and no turbos. Definitely people are going to be eyeballing these. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and learned something. Go ahead and drop a comment down below if you did. Go ahead and leave a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and then please don't forget the subscribe button and turn on post notifications so you don't miss any of my future videos. Today's like 6 or 7 of Vlogmas. I've just not been counting anymore and just been vlogging every day and editing every day. I hope you guys have been enjoying it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in once again. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.